Hello, everyone. This is Dr. Julie Gilbert, and I'm joined with Rachel Matthews, certified health coach and wellness
Woo!
trainer. And we are just having a great Monday. How's your Monday going, Rachel?
Really good. I've been,
Mhm.
you have those days where you're really efficient and
Yeah.
productive. I've
Mhm.
been at it since about 5:30 and just
Mhm.
I haven't stopped. Just there's like steam coming out of my brain. So it's been a really good day. I was
Good.
due for a day like this. It's been a while since I felt this productive. So it was good.
Oh, great.
How
Wonderful.
about you?
Yeah, good. I am probably half of that speed.
Okay.
But it's going well. Yeah, I was excited to have a Monday, and I had a 7:30 start here at the clinic, which is a little
Mhm.
earlier than I usually start.
That is early. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but I had a nice visit for my daughter who was traveling back from the
Yeah.
coast, and so she stopped by and she brought me some delicious lunch.
Hmm.
This hummus curry with curry in it. It was absolutely delicious
Oh,
that I used it kind of as a dressing on my salad. So it was
yeah.
absolutely good. Yeah, it was really, really yummy. And
Yum.
then, so we've had a good morning so far at the office, and yeah, ready to dig into our next chapter here, which is a
Yes.
very interesting one, Rachel.
Very interesting. Okay, so the chapter we're on chapter 43 for those of you potentially following along. Chapter 43 says have a glass of wine with dinner. And he says it may not be the magic bullet, but it's an integral part of a healthy diet.
Hmm.
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 So we were talking about this before we went live, and I was trying to figure out when this book was written. It
Right.
sounds like the first publication of it was 07 or 09. I can't remember what I said. I don't know if he's got a more current version of this. However, the guidelines. So if you were to look up the CDC guidelines, right? What are our American guidelines? They would say that it is safe for men to have up to 2 drinks per day, and for women 1 drink per day. And they do say that regular sort of 1 glass a night drinking is better than like binging on a weekend, right?
Mhm.
Kind of, and eating with drinking your alcohol with food is better than on an empty stomach, again kind of binging on the weekend.
Mhm.
However, new global like studies and research um, papers that are coming out are saying that there really is no recommended safe, healthy amount of alcohol to drink.
Mhm.
And so this is coming from about 2018, and that the current guidelines have not been updated. So we're kind of left with this weird thing. We have our guidelines that say, sure, 1 to 2 drinks a day. And we have this book saying, in the Mediterranean, they're drinking wine every night with dinner or every day during lunch. So where does that leave us? What are your thoughts,
Mhm.
Dr. Gilbert?
Right. Those are great. Thank you for updating us there. Yeah, this is a great conversation to have because when I think when we look at people groups and cultures that who incorporate, a glass of wine with dinner, it is just that, a glass of wine with dinner. I mean, they're not drinking the whole bottle of wine. And it is difficult in research to parse out one specific part
Yeah.
of that whole experience, which is contributing to benefit, to contributing to health. Is it
Right.
the wine? Is it that the people are getting together? Is it their conversation? Is it the fact that they're so relaxed and at ease? Is it the food part? Is it that they just walked a mile to get there? I mean, so there's so many factors involved, and of this kind of that Mediterranean lifestyle.
Mhm.
And so I think what we once thought, that what benefit the wine brought, now we're finding out that there may be some benefit to the resveratrol, but is it any more beneficial to get it from a wine versus to get it from eating, you know, 6 or 7 grapes with your meal,
Right.
right? Can you get the the resveratrol the same way. Another thought I had about,
Mhm.
so I would never suggest, let me just go on record by saying, I would never suggest that somebody who is not drinking alcohol start drinking alcohol for health benefits. I would never say that. So,
Right.
right. So what I would do is say, let's make sure that if you're drinking alcohol, it's not contributing to harm, because especially when we're trying, most of us are coming from a place of needing to get healthier, right?
Mhm.
So we want to take things out of our diet that we know can cause harm. And so, for example, if you're taking too much Tylenol, you want to take that out of your lifestyle, right? So that you can give your liver a little break. And the same may be with alcohol. You might want to take it out, so that your liver can do what it needs to do for a healthy metabolism. So anyway,
Yeah.
those are a couple of thoughts that I had.
I love what you just said about, we wouldn't recommend it as a healthy lifestyle to add it in. It's not considered a healthy lifestyle, like, oh, do this. So for someone who's not, why start? There are
Why start?
many other ways you can get these potential health benefits. And this
Mhm.
research paper I was just reading was talking about that while there might be some health benefits, it doesn't outweigh the cancer risks and the other health detriments, right?
Right.
So like you're saying, and if we're looking at getting healthier, and we know that alcohol has calories, empty calories, right? We know that it can lead to over drinking and it can simulate addiction. We know that oftentimes when people have a glass of alcohol, it tends to lower our inhibitions and we tend to eat more, right? We get snacky. Okay. So it can be leading to other negative health
Right.
outcomes.
Right.
And so
Yeah, great point.
I like
Yeah.
that idea of kind of thinking, well, would it be good to kind of pull it out, even just for a little while, to try to take it out and replace it with other healthier behaviors, and then reassess and see, should I or could I add it back in a healthier way.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I like that. To your point, Rachel, is that if the liver, so we know that alcohol has to be taken care of by the liver, metabolized by the liver. And it's kind of, I think of it as a bully, there are other things in line, you've got your glucose coming in, you got, triglyceride coming in, whatever, but alcohol just jumps to the head of the line, and, it jumps the line. So the liver has to deal with the alcohol first. And then if it's I think of this, and this may not be, scientific, but this helps me think about it. If I'm drinking alcohol and my body has to take care of the alcohol first, because alcohol is a bully, then maybe it's not as efficient in dealing with the other foods that are coming in. The other thing I think about, what you mentioned too, is that it lowers my inhibition. And it may not be just that I'm eating more, but I might be choosing something that I wouldn't usually choose. We think of pizza and beer, or other things that are not quite as beneficial for me. Usually it can be paired with alcohol. So there are a few reasons why I might need to scratch my head and ask myself, is that the best choice for me right now?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I love that that bully image. I think that is so beautifully put, because when I think about my health choices and my healthy lifestyle habits, some of them are difficult and challenging, and I have to work hard to stay on top of my habits. And when I think about, it's almost like, I'm putting money in a bank account, but there's a hole in the bank account. It's falling out. Like something else is competing for the work I just did. So if I exercise, but then I have a glass of alcohol, am I negating some of the hard work I just did? Right. So the alcohol is going to take priority. And I've some of the different sports type people that I follow, when they're talking about being more of an athlete or training or exercising, that and just the mere benefits of exercise,
Mm-hmm.
they're constantly encouraging people who are trying to get stronger or more fit or train for a walk or a run, right? That if you're drinking alcohol, you're really kind of chopping your legs off halfway, because you're really um, like you take 2 steps forward, but that alcohol pushes you 1 step back. You're not
Right.
getting
Yeah.
all the full benefit. So I
Right.
love the idea of it being a bully. That's a really interesting way to put
Mm-hmm.
that.
Yeah. Yeah. And I have to keep that in mind. And, um, yeah. So the reason this has come up recently for me is because I read a book called The Naked Mind by Annie Grace. Really good book, and it's very thought provoking as far as, when what is the line that someone passes, from drinking alcohol to having a problem with alcohol.
Mm.
And it's is different for everybody, and it's very difficult to define. As we think in the medicine, we have these DSM 5, 6, I forget where we are now. There's bullet points. Okay, you have this symptom, this symptom, this, or this sign. So signs and symptoms of different diseases. And so where do we draw the line? And it's really a subjective place, which can be a little bit eye-opening. I don't want to say necessarily scary, but just make you stop and think, okay, when am I looking forward or depending? And I think our society as a culture, we use, just like we use food for everything, we use alcohol for everything. I mean, to celebrate, to drown our sorrows, to,
Relax.
relax. Yeah, definitely. So I had a hard day, something like that. So am I giving a value judgment to that? I'm not trying to do that, but I want to just make ourselves curious around that. And what benefit is that giving me for my health? Because I'm a person who wants to pursue best health, So am I saying you can never drink alcohol or alcohol is bad? I'm not saying that. I just want to know, is it helping me right now? Being
Yeah,
my
that
best health.
question. Yeah, get curious and ask yourself the
Mhm.
question, how does it fit and why does it fit? And that's subjective. I think that's so interesting, because we can start to look at our behaviors and say, okay, do I find myself saying I need a glass of wine, or I can't wait to get home after work, to relax and to unwind with something.
Right.
And does it become a problem?
Yeah.
Great questions we can ask ourselves. And what if I stopped drinking for a week,
Right. What would
2
that be
weeks?
like? Yeah.
What could I do it? And
Yeah.
what's interesting is I've heard people say, "Oh, I could definitely do it. I'm not addicted to alcohol," but they haven't tried.
Right.
Like, so I know for myself, I regularly go on alcohol fasts where I go through long periods to check myself.
Yeah.
Because like what you said, I'm looking for optimal health.
Right.
That's really the question. Are you looking for best health, optimal health? And if so, we've got to ask this question. And
Right.
as you guys all know, if you're a patient of Organ Weight and Wellness, or you've followed the website, you know that we talk a lot about the 6 pillars of health from the American College of Lifestyle Medicine. And one of them is avoidance of addictive or risky substances or behaviors. So, they don't draw a hard line on it, but it's the same idea as gambling or smoking or drugs is this is an addictive, risky behavior, and it should be evaluated.
Right. 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 So my husband asked me recently a very challenging question. He said, Julie, would you ever drink a glass of juice, just straight juice? And I said, yeah, of course I wouldn't drink a glass of juice. I mean, I'd never drink a glass of juice.
That's a great question. I wouldn't either.
Yeah. Why? I know.
Wow.
I know.
Yeah, that's really good. That's a great you know, and of course we're talking about juice because for me, and I know Dr. Gilbert, we've talked about this. Juice has become a thing where I've realized it's a full glass of just calories and sugar that I would rather eat the orange or eat the
Right.
apple.
Right.
And it doesn't, you know, a little sip of juice here and there might be nice, but you know, with communion, that's my,
Right.
you know, that's where I cut it off. But yeah, I don't buy juice. We don't keep it in the house because I just, it doesn't have a value in my life anymore.
Right. Right.
So that is a really,
same. So yeah, what's the difference between in that? I don't know. So anyway, I'm thinking about that. I don't have
exactly. That's what we're doing here. We're challenging ourselves too,
We
right?
are.
These are the questions. I try to help all of my clients, my coaching clients, remember that health is not perfect. You never end up at the end of the line and you're like a perfect healthy. It's just it's an ongoing spectrum, and we're constantly ebbing and flowing and reevaluating. I think COVID, the whole pandemic over the last 2 years, really increased the alcohol consumption.
Oh, right. I agree
And
with you.
so, yeah. So people who maybe never drank much before or never had a problem are seeing now.
Yeah, especially since the liquor stores were considered essential businesses, right?
Oh, were they?
They
I
didn't get
didn't know
shut down.
that.
Yeah, they
Oh,
didn't get shut down.
no, an essential business. Okay, right. And so people have gotten into the habit more, you know, and habits are addictive, right? Because they build into our brains. And so just breaking the habit of drinking every day, because in the pandemic, there wasn't as much to do except for a lot more drinking. So we definitely have to start.
And that same, you know, so kind of another question is, what chain of events is, you know, ending up with a glass wine in my glass? What is the chain of events? You know, so getting curious around that. You're not judging yourself. You're not, you know, telling yourself you're a bad person, but you're just getting curious, saying what chain of events, you know, has led to, you know, a glass of wine every night, or when I was only drinking a glass of wine, you know, occasionally. You know, so, and how can I change that chain? Right?
Yes. I can offer a perfect example of this. This is something I recently analyzed in myself, is that I love cooking and I love having music. I set up my cooking environment in a specific way that invites me in, because otherwise I don't enjoy cooking as much. So, but now I do, because the way I've created my environment, music, a candle, I'm in there alone. I have a rhythm, and it usually included a glass of wine. I loved cooking with a glass of wine. And it was all very connected, right? All of the habits of cooking and everything were all connected to that glass of wine. And now I'm finding myself not wanting to cook unless I can have a glass of wine, or they're connected, right? I cook with wine. And
It's a chain. Yeah.
It's a chain, right? And the prompt for, oh, I'm going to cook wine. Oh, I can't wait to cook more wine. Right. So what I've had to do is break that chain. I had to cut the cue or the prompt. And for now, what I'm doing is I'm replacing the habit with a glass of bubbly water.
Yeah.
So I still put it in a fancy glass. I like bubbly water. It's different than just water. So it feels fancy. And so I'm doing as much as I can to replace that until I can maybe do away with it altogether, or it doesn't matter anymore. And what I find, it's part of the habit of just sipping something bubbly and fun while I'm cooking.
Right.
So I can replace what the liquid was. And so far it's working. But a great example of habit chain.
Right. Thank you. Thanks for sharing that. Yeah, we're all learning and growing, and to your point earlier, none of us have arrived. You know, I'm always figuring out new things, and learning how alcohol affects my microbiome has me.
We didn't even bring that up, but yes, another big.
We didn't even know about the microbiome, right? You know, maybe, you know, how many years ago? I mean, we knew about bacteria, you know, but that's exploding. So, and then what really is it about alcohol that it's a benefit, and where else can I get that, you know? So, so this has been a great conversation, you know, Rachel, and I don't know that I'm never going to have a glass of wine for the rest of my life, but it really has started the good thought process, that mindfulness piece, that it's not going to, not so automatic, and getting me asking really good questions around it. So we want to encourage people to ask great questions about what they need, what their health needs are, and what things can they do to get there, what stumbling blocks are in the way. And that's what we love to do. We help people really kind of recognize those walls that often come up all the time. And, I think of trying to help put a door in the wall so that we can walk through it and move forward.
I like that.
Yeah.
Let's build some more doors in our walls.
Let's make some doors. That's right.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks, Rachel, for this great conversation. And we are building a, we didn't talk about what's for dinner.
Oh, yeah.
What's for dinner, Rachel?
Dinner is one of my standard go-tos. It's a big, giant pot of chunky veggie spaghetti. And sometimes I serve it over noodles, sometimes I don't, and I just have it as this sauce, just over more veggies. But the noodles I'm using right now are those protein lentil or garbanzo bean noodles, high in protein.
High in protein, then, good fiber.
Yeah, broccoli and carrots and onions and tomatoes. So yeah.
Wonderful.
How about you?
Wonderful. Well, we were spoiled last week because our son was home from college, and he loves to cook, and he made all kinds of things. He made salmon, he made soups, he made chili, he made this roasted chickpea vegetable thing. So he did a lot of cooking and a lot of he didn't call it batch cooking, but cooking for overage. And so I'm going to be going shopping in my fridge.
Yes.
To see. Yeah. And I love, I'm not going to call it a leftover because it has a negative connotation in a lot of times our brain. Yeah. I'm going foraging for what he, made. He batch cooked, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I'll make a meal out of that. So I always want to have a healthy protein, high quality protein. I load my plate with vegetables, have a little bit of healthy fat, olive oil or avocado or something natural, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And in the evening, I try not to eat too many carbs, but I'm really getting into legumes. Rachel, I wanted to tell you that because I knew you'd be proud of me.
I love that. Beans and legumes are my favorite.
Yeah. So good for the gut.
So good for the gut and satiety. Man, whenever I eat anything with beans and legumes, I'm like full. Yeah. And great for, a
regularity. Yeah.
Regular system.
That's right.
Yeah.
Good.
So you were going to mention, I think you're going to mention
cooking show. Yeah, I don't know. So we're going to do that. So we did that. I did a special one because Zeke was home, but I don't know if we're going to meet this Friday because, I'm not so sure about this Friday, but we will have some regularity to Friday afternoons with cooking. And so we're still figuring out the rhythm to that and the energy for that and all that. Right. So it takes a little time. So we're giving ourselves grace and to figure out that, again, that rhythm and the energy needed and all the details put in place so we can make it the best for people. So I don't know if I should promise this Friday because we've got something else on our schedule this Friday.
Right. Yes. Yes. But for those of you curious, at least check in, and you can always watch the archived cooking classes. So they're gonna be there. They're on Facebook. You just go into past videos and they'll be there for you.
Yeah. Sounds good. Yeah. All right. Well, thanks so much for this great conversation, Rachel, and I hope the rest of your day goes
just, but I'm getting up and moving in between. So I'm not sedentary all day.
Right. That's right. Yeah. All right. We'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody.